Silverstein's fighting the Bronchos Queen. Bronchos getting the upper hand on Silverstein. Silverstein getting reset, come back to the Lord. Checking out his bottom weapons, back to the missiles. Very good weapon set. Here comes the dodging, taking a bit of damage on the chin there. He's getting a little desperate, getting
What
close.
dodging? There's nowhere to dodge. Hey everyone, in today's DaveCast, I am interviewing and doing a playthrough of Dr. Bosskey, aka Chain Hollander's new video game, Interstellar Sentinel. It's an interesting take on a side-scroller, which I believe is now called a shmup type game, which I haven't played in forever. And Dr. Bosskey wanted me, he's an old friend of mine, he wanted me to do a playthrough of the live version that just released a few weeks ago. And you can see various footage of me playing through poorly, I might add, because I haven't played one of these in a while. And also just a long interview he and I had talking about games, the art and science of making games, little interview action of that, and just some stuff in general along the way. Enjoy.
Yeah, so, I mean, Dave, you played how many months ago?
2 or 3 was the last play, and then sometime like a year ago was the first play.
Yeah, this project's been almost 2 years in the making for me at this point. Some of the art and the world concepts I was already building for my Twitch show back in 2019. So, what'd you think? I know it's been a long time since you played these types of games. You have a little bit more familiarity. So, but any thoughts?
Because I might keep this part, or you might keep this part. I'm going to say it like this. Yes, I'm a gamer. I'm just not a gamer who has 12 hours a day to sit there playing games like I'm 20 years old or still in college, in the old days. So for me, I'm not as good as I once was on anything, unless it's like, City Skylines or something like, casual.
Yeah, you got a good strategy.
So, like, for me to just even play a side-scroller like this, or whatever the newfangled term for those are these days, it's like a nice throwback to the old days, but I still suck at it, because I just, I don't, I don't play this very often. So, it's me, like, trying not to get killed while I'm shooting at things, and sometimes good, sometimes bad. So, like, it's fun. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's fun. It's just, it's, for me, it's hard, because I don't, well, first of all, I'm not the developer, so I don't know where all the nooks and crannies are. But games like this, I totally like. I mean, I played all the classics. Like, who hasn't at this point? So,
well, a lot of people. There are generations of gamers these days that have never played these types of games. I mean, my son, 29, I introduced him to this style of game, but it never really clicked with him, right? And it's these types of games, they're very direct focus games, right? The moment you lose focus, even when I can see with a lot of my buddies that like to stream and play games like this, and when they start to talk and engage with the stream, it's like texting and driving, right? Like, sure, you can do it. It's never a good idea, it's always with risk, right? So and the other thing too is that, I mean, first of all, you had some really good dodges in there, right? Like that was awesome to see. You were starting to get a flow for which weapons to use between the top and the bottom, and you did really well. I think for a casual playthrough, the fact that you could see the whole game, and you didn't actually fail out. Sure, you used a few continues, but you did fantastic. These games are hard.
I put the quarters in.
To keep quarter going. Munchers, absolutely. Well, that's the thing too, is from a game design perspective, especially now that I've really been focused on this for a while, it's like, for instance, right, like Super Mario Maker, they've made a couple of them at this point, right? And even before then, when people were ROM hacking them and kind of making their own levels, people make these insane levels, like where it's like pixel perfect timing and accuracy 100% of the way through, right? Like it's and people, because as the developer will spend hundreds and hundreds or thousands of hours making something, what you think you understand and your skill level, it outstrips what most people will ever spend time with your game doing. So it's very easy to make stuff that is impossibly hard, and like it can still be technically possible, but it's a real rite of passage. And there's a market for people out there looking for those experiences. It's much harder to try to make something that it balances and caters and gives people the opportunity to feel great. One of the great secrets of game design, game development, in my mind, is our responsibility. And this is kind of the same thing with all kinds of customers and relationships, but our responsibility is to make people feel like they're good. Like, but you can't just say press the button and win. That's not going to work. You have to let them like work for it a little bit, but you want people to feel like they are clever, like they solved the puzzle and they have enough hints to do it. And if you can guide them in that direction to understand, to intuit those things and to find some of the surprises, even better in terms of engagement. So it's a tough thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason I never became a game designer because the amount of creativity, and then you have to think on, like, it's like you have to be creative, but you also have to think, like, okay, the player's experience, right? Like, how does that need to work? And that's like a system and a process. So it's like you're doing, it's like 5 different jobs at the same time. With that.
Yep.
And for me, it was always like, yeah, just do project management. Be a project manager, right? Like,
Which has got its own levels. Don't get me wrong, right?
oh, yeah.
The thing about project managers that's interesting is we do this other thing that that people don't think about, and the concept is this, right? Basically, the further out into the future that you have to think about things, and or just to realize that there's some things you can't control and that you'll get to it when you get to it.
Yeah.
The more energy it takes for your mind to do that. And then so you have to also put yourself in a place where when you're thinking about the future and you're trying to lay plans, all best plans, go to the wayside once you start executing, right? But when you start to think about those layers and the dependencies and the unintended consequences of actual implementation, that's a whole different level of strategic thinking too. So and there's a lot of parallels across game design, development, interactive experiences in similar vein.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I appreciate all you guys for the hard work that goes into it, and I wish all of our types of jobs in the industry. Because for those who don't know, if you're paying attention to this part of the video, I used to work in the game industry along with Shane here, and we worked at the same company together, several in fact. And it's just a lot of the roles that we play just aren't really valued. It's like they're valued until the company doesn't value them. I mean, they'll cut game designers loose like nobody's business. Project managers are considered a luxury item. Marketing people, forget it, right? Like, it's. But then again, you can say that about any industry, and I have personal experience with that too. So,
yeah, you're not wrong in that, and I think at the end of the day, take Hollywood, right? Like Hollywood's a very interesting model because a large amount of people, a crazy amount of human effort get together and they have these insane schedules because every day of shooting is essentially your production and your production, but every day of shooting is just money you're spending, right? So you're just burning through it. So everyone's incentivized to try to get all the shots they possibly can, to think they've gotten everything they can, and then to go into post to then reconstruct this thing into what they thought. Hopefully they don't do a lot of research, reshoots, and a bunch of other things. But then what happens is that so you have the budget, and luckily the product, we're really successful. Hollywood blockbuster movies make insane amounts of money. But they're big bets, they're huge bets, right? So one of the ways that Hollywood mitigates that is that they bring everyone together. Some of them are unionized, some of them aren't. And then they disperse everyone. And then you just have your editor and a few other folks and, for kind of finishing the movie at that point. So, there's a lot of parallels there, but it's tough,
Yeah, it's a tough biz. I mean, so having you being in the industry for a long time, what possessed you to even make the game?
Well, so I found my way to the game industry by accident, mostly. Like I was like everyone else in life. I was very lucky to know a few people, and one of my best friends went and joined the game industry, thinking that he couldn't do it either, and that we would show up and that everyone there was going to be just AAA top of their game. And we're younger. Like I don't think I was even 20 by then. I was barely 20 years old. And so that's where I got my start. But one of the things I was very, very lucky to have, because I'm 46 now, is that back in the early 80s, my mom was a woman that was really interested in technology. She like adopted Betamax and VHS and was recording her own movies and putting together. Like, she was just way ahead of her time, because back then, I mean, games and interactive and all this and technology, it was a very, very male dominated industry, marketed very, very deliberately towards males, and we've seen shifts in the game industry across that. But back then she was ahead of her time because she was really interested in all these things. And I was in a place where the reason why I know and was able to play with an Atari 2600 and eventually got one for Christmas was because of her, because she owned one and a ColecoVision. Like, she was really into the games. And so there were times where I was 7 or 8 years old and I would get up blurry eyed and I'd have to use the bathroom at like 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. Right. And I trundled through the hallway and I looked down the hall. I'd see my mom sitting in front of the TV, the old CRTs, right? And she'd be playing with the Nintendo Entertainment System at that point, the NES. And she'd be playing something like Zelda. And she was just really, she loved the escapism, and again, ahead of her time in a lot of ways because of, because of what I was saying. And then I'd finish up my business and I'd be on my way back to go to bed. And she'd be like, hey, she'd say, and it was luckily different things, but she'd say, come hang out with me for a little bit. And so we'd have these magic moments where I would sit down and we would share in the quiet of all the very early, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning times, just hanging out and having this thing that we shared together. And that really set me on the path of both being closer to her, because that's how we connected. And that's where I associated a bunch of, love and early maternity and sharing. And that put me on the path of enjoying games for my whole life. And so, just like as you pointed out, right, we've all in our age bracket played a lot of these games if we grew up with them. And so this style of game that I've been making is essentially my love letter to some of the greats, the Gradiuses and R-Types and Einhanders. And, I've played these style of games for my entire life. And these are all the things that I loved. And I found a great opportunity with tools and technology and technical art and a bunch of other things where all of my own skills came together. And it really helped me, just say, well, let's bite off a bigger project. Let's give back from to this genre of game that is very niche these days. And let's explore it. And I really have been blessed to be able to, to here we are, several thousand hours later, 2 years later in some cases. Some of this art's been in development even before I knew I was making this style of game. So yeah, that's the short of it.
I've known you, let's just say, a really long time. Well, you already gave your age away, so that didn't help. But that is literally the first time in so many years. I don't think I've ever heard you talk about your relationship with your mom, like, ever. And I've known you a long time. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, the closest I can get to a mom story like that is I've woken up as a young man. I've woken up late at night sometimes to go to, do the thing. And I've caught her on the, Atari 2600, the playing Donkey Kong and Pac-Man and whatever back in the, back in the 80s. And, we never talked about it, but I know she was doing it because I would wake up and I would see that. So it was kind of nice to see it, right? Like, oh, I'm not just this nerdy little, kid. Hey, mom's having fun too, even though she's, she never tells me about it. But, in later years, like, she got hooked on the, Windows Solitaire and Minecraft, or no, with Minesweeper back in the day. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was like her, she was always playing that. But, like you and I, like, we got into the games. Like, we played games, and right now I got so many games coming out this fall that I'm like, well, it's really bad that the strike is going on. It's going to mess up TV and film for a while. That sucks because we all went through that in 2007, right, with that strike. And it's like, come on, can't y'all just come to the table, figure this one out? But at least we got games, right? So you and I, like, we got games, so we at least have something to go on.
Yeah, I know one of the things that you and I are both, we've both played a bunch of Bethesda games over the years as well. So yeah. Starfield is now out, and I just started playing it yesterday. So, and it's very much,
I thought it was out next week. Am I late?
It is out officially next week. It's just, it's out early for anyone that buys the pre.
I may have access. I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, if you buy the special edition that comes with the DLC or whatever. So, it's a bit of a hefty price tag, but it's also like take all the things you love about Skyrim or those types of games, and now you can explore space and have your spaceship. And so far, I was only played for a couple hours last night, but I'm excited.
Cool. I do not even have time to check it out this weekend. It's gonna have to wait. But I got that. You're right. So Starfield's like a 1,000-hour game, right? Like just like all the frickin' Assassin's Creeds are. And there's that coming out, and I have City Skylines 2 coming out in a little over a month, and there's a lot of people in that community super excited about it. When's our aren't they working on Grand Theft Auto like next one finally?
No, they are according to Gamescom, because there's people are very excited about it. So that's. I don't think they've announced a release date or anything like that yet. So,
but they did say it's isn't it based on Vice City's city? I thought that's
I haven't seen anything from it yet. So
I haven't
it's
either.
One of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's basically a day one purchase for me anyway. So.
Yeah, right. Like it's guaranteed. I'm on. Yeah, just tell me when it's out. I'm just as soon as I can buy it, I'm on it.
Which is interesting, right? Because when we talk about industries and we talk about big bets, right? These are such huge bets with huge budgets, right? And one of the things that these companies try very hard to do is to maintain that best in class status.
Yeah.
For these juggernaut, enterprises, and I mean, look, a lot of these games are in development 5+ years, 5 to 8 years. Over a lifetime, you get how many of those? Not that many. So when we talk about people shifting around and coming in and out of the industry, changing their own interests, and these are huge labors that take a lot of effort to do. And they're huge big bets. A lot of these publishers can't afford to miss these big swings of the plate more than a couple times before it's a huge risk.
Yeah, I mean Rockstar has to live up to their name, right? So they got to get it right every time. I mean, and you're waiting a decade between games sometimes with them, right? Like forever. Same thing with Bethesda. Like I've been waiting forever for Elder Scrolls 6. Where is my game, right? The other one, Skyrim, came out forever ago. It came out in 12 years ago at this point. Jeez.
It's been ported to everything.
I mean, it's been ported to everything. We have Elder Scrolls Online, which I played for years, but I haven't played it lately, just, age. But, I mean, there's so much, we can talk all day about games, but...
yeah, totally.
Yeah, so... all right, so tell me, let's get back to your game a little bit, because we went way on a tangent there.
We did.
So you made the game. That is awesome. You did more than I ever set out to do in the industry. I mean, I think when I started, I was like, oh, maybe someday I can make my own game. And that, I don't even remember when that dream died, but it definitely died for me at some point. Because I remember, like, when I left the game industry, I was so burned out that I was just like, I'm not even having fun playing them anymore. This is bad. This is wrong. And then when I went into web development and e-commerce, it was like, wait, I want to play games again. So it kind of like, I got that part of me back, which is nice. But, you went and you stayed in and you made a game. And that is awesome,
Thank you.
Now that you have the game and it's finally out, which is even more awesome. How hard, what struggles were you faced with when trying to make it? And how'd you get past all that?
Yeah. So I guess that there's a couple of things. So one is that this style of game, and while this is different than I imagined it in its final form, I've been doing prototypes. I mean, I'm doing prototypes probably since 2007, 2008, something like that, using different game engines, Unity 3D, a little bit of Unreal. I realized a couple things, like we all do, and this is kind of when you were talking about, burnout too, right? I don't write a lot of code. I can script and have a logical mind, but the idea of coding a whole game from scratch in C++, that's a different skill set. A lot of times when you're doing indie game development, you wind up wearing every hat. So I realized that while I could build this game in those types of engines, the reality is I want to find a vehicle where the engine itself was only dedicated to making the style of game. And I found this really cool engine that released about a year ago. and it's been in development by some really passionate folks since like 2014. And the engine's called Shmup Creator, and it's their whole shtick is it's basically a codeless game development engine just for PC in this case for making just shmups. And you can probably make a few other types of things in there, but the nice thing is that it has one of the best in class iteration flows. So, you know, for example, when you have a side scroller, well, the camera is always moving and you're always in motion, right? And so it's sort of like a video timeline editor when you think about it, right? Because it's linear in that respect. And then you want to put all the things that are going to happen along that timeline. And one of the things that the editor does, for instance, is it gives you a really handy camera scroller. So you can scroll through the world very quickly as if you're using like video editing software. And then you press one button, no compile time, and you immediately drop into essentially that snapshot of where you're at in the world. And so one of the things that I realized is, so, and people don't really talk about this, is that when you want to make a game, you get to make all the tooling, the data path, the how you're going to make things from assets all the way through design and iteration to actually make your game. And there's lots of ways to do it, and there's probably about 0.9% of the time really bad ways to do it. And when you're learning to do all these things at the same time, you often try your very best to get to making a flow, and then because you have other things to do, you never get back to it. And so you always have these like sort of okay or very janky like tooling processes. And so one of the things I really wanted to tackle, and it was a real challenge, was how do I iterate very rapidly through this? Because when you're in the moment and you're trying to craft your gameplay, the longer you have to wait from the time that you iterate and change things to then being able to play, the more time there is, the less you can get done. If it takes you 15 minutes just to get back to check out the thing that you wanted to adjust, and my levels are a little bit longer on the game side, as you saw, they're around 9-ish minutes. Then that's how much time you have to spend every iteration cycle to do that. And so finding a tool set that really helped me combat some of that was a huge part of that. Another thing also is, you can't do it all yourself. No matter, you sort of can if you're one of those types of jack of all trades types of folks. But for instance, my ability to make art is not a very high skill ability at this point. I have not dedicated thousands of hours to being able to draw and render and style, and everything we're doing is in 2D in this case. And so while I have the imagination for it, and I can visualize what I want, trying to sketch it into reality and to refine it to the level of quality art that you see in the game, it's just beyond me. And so realizing that, putting on my production hat, right, and my project manager hat and my directing hat, and I had to go out into the world, and over the course of a long period of time, I probably spent 6 to 8 months working with different artists doing prototype projects, just like, hey, let's sketch the main character in the world, and let's set up a workflow of how I can give feedback and we can integrate. Like, let's work on our, to understand how we're going to communicate. And so it took me a long time to find basically my guy, and my lead artist, who's fantastic. His name's Dimitri. He's in Kiev, and it's been really crazy over the last, obviously, last year and a half, and that's a whole different story. But we, when I found him, he was a hydro engineer, graduated in hydro engineering. So he's got a very, very good like engineering mind. He's very logical, which is super helpful because you want to be, art is creation and creativity, but also you want to have consistency, right? So like, sure we can make one character, but if that character doesn't feel like it belongs in the world of all the other art, you're just doing one-offs, and there's something said for that, but it's really hard to bring a cohesive vision together. So working with him and iterating basically over years, I met him towards the end of 2019, and that really helped me first go through that process, realizing that I needed to have people I could depend on to build trust, because I get to push and challenge his own skills, because like what I pay him is not very much in the grand scheme of things. Like, I'm very, very lucky. And the reality is that if you want to attract talent and you don't have a huge budget, now if the game does really well, we'll share and it's all great, but again, you never know. Like, it's all where these things go. So what you need to do then is you need to create something else of value for the people that you want to work with, right? So I build trust with my lead artist to both share my imagination and my feedback and my communication and my organization skills. And he really finds that challenging. So he feels like he's growing in his own craft, right? And if you can't build these relationships, and I put this out there as a more of a general thing too, right? Which is, building these types of relationships. A lot of people get hung up on the fact that they don't have any money. Like I don't have any money to do anything. Well, if you don't have money, what do you have to offer? Like your most important thing is to figure out what you want to accomplish, find people that are trying to accomplish the same thing, be of value to them. There's no such thing as something for nothing. And while you're providing that value in the different ways that you can, then you have the exchange, right? So I have this, it's just the way I basically approach business as a whole. So a little factoid there. But yeah, that was a huge challenge. And this game wouldn't be what it is without him. When I first met him, I tried to explain, because we basically are using old school frame-based animations. And so there's generally somewhere between 4 and 8 frames of animations for each of the characters, right? It gives the characters a little bit of life. They're not super high, this isn't 24 frames a second animation, right? But it gives it a little bit of charm. That's its own style. And when I first met him, it was beyond where he was, and we've worked on that over these years. And now the thing that's wonderful is that he's able to do a lot of what I want because he knows what our style is even before I ask for it. So anyways.
Well, you touch on something that is good advice in any industry. It comes up a lot, and I'm doing real estate investing now, and it comes up a lot, right? It's the concept of adding value. And everyone thinks they knows what that means, but not really, right? You don't really know what it means till you know what it means, right? It's like, hey, Chain, that's a tree, right? And I'm just pointing that out to you, and you're like, yeah, that's a tree, okay, but do you even know what that means? No. Have you experienced the tree? Have you touched the tree, right? Doesn't make any sense. It sounds like it does, but it doesn't. So when it comes to the concept of adding value, this comes up a lot. In fact, just this week, because I've done several podcasts this week alone, it's come up on each one. I've talked to new folks in the investing community that I'm a part of, and this concept comes up over and over again. It's like, well, I offer this, and I'm like, okay, for this thing that you're offering, you and 10,000 other people offer it. So what else, what other skills do you have? Let's talk about that. Let's figure out what you really offer, right? Because the same thing you just mentioned, I offer that. And so do 10 other people I know, right? So like helping, like one of the things I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help people find their skill sets, because a lot of people don't realize like things they do every single day may actually be a skill set they can share with others and help others with. For example, like I said, I'm doing real estate investing. I made myself good at comping a property and underwriting a property. Why did I do that? Because I need to go out and put offers on properties to try and acquire them. And to be able to feel confident in the offer, I have to know if it's going to be a good deal or not. So I had to learn how to comp. I had to learn how to underwrite. And in the process of doing that, I ended up using another skill set I had, which is I'm very, very good at building things with Excel, and I needed an underwriting calculator because every single one I had or had access to was terrible for different reasons. They're all good, but they're all bad, right? Because none of them did what I wanted. So I just built my own. Right? And now when I talk to people, I'm like, well, tell me what your problem is. I don't know how to comp. I don't know how to underwrite. Okay, I can help you with that. And they're like, do you know where I can find a good calculator? I'm like, I can help you with that too. So it's like helping people discover those skills. How do they add value? Where can they help others? A lot of people don't realize the power of just being able to say, what do you need? I need this. Okay, let me get you in touch with the right person. That's not me, but I know who you should talk to. Let me get you two connected. You are now a connector. That is a skill. That is something you can offer right there, right? So this concept comes up over and over again. And I wish I knew more about it back when I was in the game industry. Even when I was doing the earlier days of web development and e-commerce, it didn't really make sense to me then. But these days, it's like, I have all these different things that I know how to do, and you have all these different things you know how to do. Let's share that knowledge. Let's just get out there and help others learn it, figure it out, just get them connected to the right people, the right resources, and share that value and offer that value to the world. So That's, you're saying that in the context of, video games, and I'm saying it's so far beyond that. It's everywhere.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
that just should be
absolutely.
your life, you know?
Mhm.
um, yeah. So with that, we've probably gone on long enough. So I'll just ask, one more question. Like, how's the game doing so far, and what's next? When's the sequel that you're gonna make me lose to 15 times before you release it? When I'm old and gray.
Well, yeah, totally. So let's see here. So first of all, the game is doing really well. I'm in a space now where we're coming up on our first 100 copies sold. It's a very niche industry. I think at the up end the upper end when I kind of looked at kind of the comps for similar games in the space that became super successful. I mean, they sold conservatively, maybe we'll call it 300,000 units, maybe, and that's at the upper end, cross-platform, a bunch of other things, right? So, and we come in at a lower price point of just under $12, $11.99. So, it's a hobby. It's a high-end hobbyist project for sure. I mean, I'm in it for the marathon, and now I put on the additional hats of telling the story and making some of the cool parts and thinking about the marketing strategy. And one of the other things that we're still working through is I have a pretty major update for the game because now it's out there. The game's popping up in places that I never expected with people I've never known. So now I'm watching people playing with the game, and sometimes because we live in the age where everyone records lots of stuff, there are lots of Twitch streamers and YouTubers that record their playthroughs. So I get to put on my data science hat and see how they're interacting with it, just like we did in this call here. And so I still have probably conservatively probably another 2 or 3 months of tuning. One of the bigger updates that I'm doing is we're going to change out the player craft for an actual player. People respond really well to human physiology. So Dr. Bosskey is going to come out of his ship, and he's going to be his own character. So, and I think I showed you some concepts of what that looked like already. So, but
Yeah.
it's very superhero, very super cool. And then from there, I think I'm going to be within the next week or two, I'm going to release that update. And then it's mostly just tuning, polishing, bug fixing. Like when I see the game, I have a laundry list. I probably have, you know, at least 1,000 tasks left. And some of them are small things like, hey, let's polish the sound effects, or we're using temporary visual effects in some cases, right? And or in this case, I've been doing things like optimizing because I'm using too many particles that, and as a result, those create other types of issues, right? So probably got another 2 or 3 months of that, and then it's mostly also marketing strategy, going out to tell the story a little bit more, sharing, engaging with YouTubers, engaging with Twitch streamers, and going out there to find the audiences. I've got a few. Again, this is very niche. Like a lot of people are around our age, and there are some enthusiasts from that find this style of game, but it's like it's a new novelty for them. So so that's what this next chapter looked like. Simultaneously, once we got over this next hump, the next game is going to be a cyberpunk neon noir dystopic mega sprawl city, and that'll be 3 levels. It'll be much shorter. It'll be about half the size of this game because this game's a little overbuilt, first one. It's primarily, I've already got the boss villain that we worked on a bunch of years ago. He's basically this techno cyber werewolf that comes from this corporation in which they hunt down fantasy creatures and synthesize their genes into technology. So, and then they basically are a corporation that runs mercs for hire and things like that. So he's the main bad guy in this world, and the same corporation essentially produces mechs, so mechanized armor, and there we've got a little bit of what you've already seen in this game. Some of the characters already come from that world, where it's got a bit of this like Doom, demonic flesh infused mechanized robotics kind of thing. So I've already I did a slight deviation when we were in the middle of working on this game, thinking I was going to build a second world. And I scaled this game way down. So I also have a ton of concepts from that. So that's what the next bigger game will be. So yeah.
We're not gaming nerds at all. I thought you were gonna say like Interstellar 2, the fight for more beer or something. Like I don't know.
Amazing.
I mean, at first when you were talking, I was just like, "Oh, it sounds like the plan is to really build out the rest of the to do what we." So for those who aren't unfamiliar, that might be part of my audience.
In gaming, releasing the game is like that's when the work starts half the time, right? Like because there's a day one patch usually, almost always, right? The day one patch, and then there's like all the DLC, major releases that you just sell as part of the first game, and more patches and more patches. So it's like there's a lot of work after you release, and only companies that have really been doing this a while, and they're thinking, all right, here's our plan for the sequel or the next game in the series or whatever. And they may have big teams and money and stuff, but it's hard when you find the independent developers that have the time and the foresight to be able to really expand their thought process all the way out to say, here's the full thing I want to do. So that's pretty that's pretty impressive right there. So you've got a plan, and I'm gonna be 90 by the time you finish it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm definitely not done exploring the space. And the cool part is speaking of kind of coming back to being a service, right? The engine developer, very nice guy, and this is one of his passions. So I put on my producer hat. I spun up a Trello board for him, and I help him. I gave him a framework for both capturing feedback from the other users of the tool set, but also my own as well, prioritization system, and then a release process that helps kind of shore it up for him. I also do like tutorial videos for the other folks, and I'm not, and because I've released the game at this point now, people are starting to release their games. It's like it's about just over a year in production, and some of those are some of the best like sales pitches for the tool set itself. So yeah, super cool.
Yeah, you were always really good at Trello, even when I was running that old baking YouTube channel, and you had your team, and you guys were like all over Trello. I'm like, Trello is really, for me, just not the right tool. So I don't use it. But it's funny because even in the real estate investing side, it's like there's a lot of people using Trello as a CRM, and I'm like, it is not built for that. You really need a real CRM. For all the I forget all the folks like us who know what that is. You know what that is, great. But I'm not going to explain.
Do you want to de-acronym that for the people watching?
Yeah, it's a customer relationship management software basically. So salespeople use it. If you're in sales, you definitely should know what a CRM is. But anyway. No, it's been a pleasure. I always enjoy, playing games with you, even though we don't get so much of an opportunity to do that anymore. And though you were actually just watching me play this one because it's your game, but
how awesome is that? I mean, you're in the credits.
Yeah. And I did a special thing for those who catch it. I intentionally tried to die when my name showed up on the screen, and it actually worked. So I was pretty impressed.
He did.
Which is also, by the way, it's also unusual, right? You don't really, I don't think I've played a game that actually, you actually play when the credits are rolling. Usually that's not the case. So that's a nice little change that I've not seen that before, but I don't play as many games as I used to. So maybe you got that from somewhere else. I don't know. But no, it's very.
There's a few games out there that they've done it, but they're far between. So that's also because in modern games, credits are like 40 minutes long.
There's like 8,000 people involved now. Even go watch a movie. It's like, where are all these people living? Like.
Yep, exactly.
So this is, well, I guess our names are on the screen, so it's Chain Hollander, but Dr. Bosskey, and the game is Interstellar. You can get it on Steam, and for those watching my channel, I'll put a link to that down below for you. You should definitely check it out. I wish it were free $99, but it isn't. What'd you say it was? $11.99, $12.99?
$11.99.
Yeah.
But something tells me it'll be on sale. But if anyone reaches out and they really want to be involved, they want to do some play testing, just pass them my way so we can work something out. So it's and the game, the full title is Interstellar Sentinel. It's out on Steam. It's out on itch.io. You just type it into Google. I've got some decent SEO ranking, so it shows up right there. The links will be down below in the description anyway. So
yeah, my bad. I completely slipped on the Sentinel part, and I'm glad you corrected that. Interstellar Sentinel. Interstellar Sentinel. So
it's also a bit of a mouthful. You get the voice acting Interstellar Sentinel.
Yeah. If you've listened to this video, you'll hear that voice all throughout the game, and it's pretty fun.
It's me going back to the gaming things that I love, right? Like Killer Instinct, big voice announcers, right? Quake did this as well. Ultra Kill, right? Mega Kill, things like that. Gears of War did the same thing with some of their characters. Super fun.
I'm a game
nerd.
I'm telling you, most of the people in my audience are, they're all real estate people. So, 99% of them have no idea what we're talking about. But that's okay, right? Like, all I'm saying
out there
is,
and you expect.
if you enjoy a good video game, you know what Steam is, then, go hit the link down below. Check this one out. Instead of watching a movie with that money, go play this game. You'll have more fun. And since there won't be any movies for a while, you might as well, support your local developers, right? He's right here. He's on the line with me right now. Just help him out, right? Check it out. Check out his fun game. It's a fun game. Like, watch me screw up and die like 500 times in the game. That's how I play games. I just die a lot. Like, it's fine.
That's part of the process,
right? It is for me. So anyway, appreciate the time, and actually, you know what, for those who are in your audience, since because I'm going to give you all the raw footage in case you want to use any of it, so you'll see our names because we're on a Zoom call while we're doing this. We're not just doing normal streaming through OBS or StreamYard or anything. Now your name is pretty straightforward, so it is what it is, but on mine, your audience is probably looking at me like, who's this weird guy with a kitchen background and this like weird QR code over here, and what is going on with his name down there, right? Like, that's probably what your audience is wondering. So I'm going to explain that. I'm Dave Silverstein. I used to be in the game industry. I've since left the game industry, but I still play games. However, these days I'm doing a lot of real estate investing, plus I own several other businesses. And part of what I do in real estate investing is I let people know who I am. And this up here is actually my business card. And if you have a QR code scanner, you can scan that and it will take you to my business card with all my information for my company that's called Eagle Street Ventures. And that's my one of my real estate companies. And then down below right there where my name is, something we do in my local community of investors is we post certain pieces of information. Like, that's my business phone number. Yep, see, that's it right there, Eagle Street, and my ugly bald dome right there.
Beautiful bald dome. Baldies have to stick together.
The bronze dome is a little less bronze because I haven't had enough time to get out in the sun this past month or so. But anyway, you'll see this little thing that says Gator, and you have like a peace symbol or a victory symbol there. That is actually just part of the community I'm in. I am a student of Pace Morby, so I'm in his Sub-2 community. I'm also in his Gator community, and that's what that's there for. It's to let other community members know which parts of it I'm in. I'm actually in one and maybe two more other groups of his community. If I can get into the new one he just launched before Shane and I got on this call anyway. But I can't, I don't know. There's a lot involved with that one, so I'm trying to get in, but I don't know yet. But the other one's a pretty cool one, and we don't have an icon for it yet. We're waiting on Pace for that, so we'll figure that one out as we go. But that's who I am. This weird guy with this weird background and stuff going on. But and if if you're interested in real estate investing, you have my phone number, and then you have my info up there if you want it. Give me a shout, and I'll see what can I help you with is really the question at the end of the day. What can I help you with? And if you are interested in investing in real estate, let me know, because there's opportunities coming my way all the time. And there's I'm into a lot of cool and fun, interesting things in that industry. Not everything I do is game playing. So give me a shout. With that though, I think this call has gone on like 2 hours at this rate. So get prepared to download a very big file chain, just like we used to.
And look, I when I do my playthroughs, I'm making 15 and 18 gig files at this point. So 1080p 60.
I have 2 5 terabyte drives for all the video footage I've had over the years. I already need another one. Like, I already need one more. Like, I'm already running out of space. And I've only had my new channel up for like 2 weeks, and I already have like about a terabyte's worth of content that I have. I gotta release it. Like, next week I'm gonna be very busy releasing stuff.
Yeah, put the files up, and I'll put them on my YouTube channel, and I'll cross link to yours as well. So it'll be great.
Yeah.
So, unless there's any parting words, I think that'll about wrap it up for today. And it's an absolute pleasure. We'll do this again, or we'll do something again very soon. And any parting words on your end?
Yeah, no, I look, I appreciate the time. We go way back, and the fact that you were able to make time and be part of the development process, and then to see this all the way through to the end has been fascinating. I'm also really stoked for you on these new adventures, right? Like, you are on a whole new like path of really thinking about business and being of service, and it's been really cool to touch base with you and see as your own skills have been developing, and being able to have the benefits of watching those skills and then sharing with me. So I've learned quite a bit as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I learned even more stuff I don't, it doesn't, it's Kaizen, right? Like it's Kaizen. I never stop learning. There's always something new to learn. And just this week, like there's new stuff I need to share with you that I've picked up on that's all new. And it's just amazing how much and how fast I've been learning in the last 6 months alone of just everything I can learn about real estate investing. So
Awesome.
pretty cool stuff. All right. I think that about wraps it up for this one. And thanks everybody if you made it this far. I appreciate you sticking with us till the end. And I bid you adieu. Take care.
Bye.